Pete Garden Report. It's Friday night. Josue and I just hanging out, and
Labor Day weekend. There we go.
got a Celtics signing. I was down moving. I'm just moving everybody in, Josue. I was down moving my cousin into college. Yesterday, I was moving my other cousin in the North End.
Another cousin? Wow, look at you.
Yeah, so I'll have plenty of places to stay wherever. But Celtics made a signing, and this is one reported by SDNA in Europe that Celtics had offered a contract about a month ago. His name pretty much faded away since then. Seemed like he was going to go over to Europe and play in Greece. But they got the signing done here. 1 year minimum. Svi Mykhailiuk. He's going to be the 14th man on the Celtics here. I did a little video on it yesterday, but what was your impression of the signing, Josue?
I like it. I mean, you look at his numbers, his shooting numbers, his size, especially for someone in that position. I mean, it makes a lot of sense for what the Celtics are trying to do. I mean, talking about defense, something that was mentioned, Jalen Brown mentioning it at his signing. And it seems like they clearly want to get back in that direction, the team that they were in 2022. And I think that, for his size and his length, I think that's something that they're hoping that will translate on the defensive end. Obviously, his shooting is the big factor here. I think anyone that's shooting over 40% is sort of on the Celtics' radar at this point, and especially when it comes to guys are not going to break the bank, right? I mean, that's something that's going to be like a new thing in the NBA, if you ask me, right? A lot of guys that may be, in their fourth, fifth year at that point of their career where they're not quite sure they should go play overseas, guys that could get an opportunity like this and make the most of it. So it's an interesting signing. I mean, obviously, I think where the Celtics are in terms of, how much money they have to spend, it makes sense for them to go out and get someone like this. So again, that this is an opportunity for him to obviously stay in the NBA and potentially pick up some minutes when, someone is out of the lineup and he has to fill in.
Yeah, he seems like a good innings eater if they're sitting one of the wings.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, what have you been writing a lot of baseball lately, Bobby?
I love that phrase. And there's quite a few of them on the roster now, guys that can just play and win you games.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Potentially. This roster's so set up, and I've said this before, Josue, to rest this regular season. They're going to be able to take so many nights off and still win games, which they were good at last year, too. You remember all those games, the Bucks won especially, which they didn't win, but they were pretty close, where you trot out Cornette, Pritchard, Hauser, and Grant. Maybe this year it's O'Shea or Mykhailiuk or whoever it might be. And they're right there, even against a fully loaded team on the other side, because they're just playing good basketball. They got a lot of shooting out there. They got some defenders. So this roster is looking pretty deep, and depth isn't going to necessarily win you a championship. This probably isn't even going to be a guy who plays in the playoffs. But they're just good guys to have, because normally your 14th guy on the roster probably isn't even a guy capable of playing. But this guy is, a 5-year pro at this point who's shooting 36% from three.
Right, exactly. And I think when you think about how different it's going to be this year, I mean, not just roster-wise and Porzingis and Marcus Smart not being around, but just the schedule overall, the new tournament, how this thing is going to affect the players in terms of how many games are being played throughout the week, and just the way that some of these road trips were put together. This is opportunity for guys like this to go in there and fill in for minutes. And a lot of those names you just mentioned, I think one of those guys out of the three or whatever, whether it's between Svi, Jordan Walsh, if they go out and sign another player potentially, right? Whether maybe it's TJ Warren, I'm still wondering if that's going to be the case. Do they bring back Blake Griffin? Maybe he's one of those guys. I think having one of those guys, out of that group, to go in and pick up minutes when guys like, Al Horford is out on the second night of a back-to-back, or, you got other guys out there who just need some rest. And Celtics have to be really careful about that when you think about a team that's potentially on the verge of making a third deep playoff run, which is obviously the goal, and them achieving that championship, being our 18.
Yeah, and you obviously balance and getting enough reps with that rest. Kristaps Porzingis will be ready to start this year as he continues to sit out there at the World Cup with the plantar fasciitis. So we heard a little bit from him over the past week on that, and Brad as well. So they have enough here. Like, you're not looking at this signing and say, oh, you need to fill a need. Though I do wonder whether Sam Hauser has an obvious leg up on him. Do guys like that push each other a little bit at that wing spot, even in O'Shea? Like, is there a little bit of competition? Does Hauser, given what he did last year, have a shoe-in for that position, because I'm excited about Hauser this year. You have the defensive strides from last season. You have the incredible consistency from three. He had that long slump midway through the season, but
Yeah.
overall, every level, even his first full season in the NBA, shooting 40% from three. It's impressive what he can do behind the line. So you hope he continues to take a few steps here, but this guy's a little different. He can attack closeouts, V. He can even do some creation on the weak side. I saw Nekias Duncan, who's a great analyst, saying that there's a little bit of creation ability here too when it comes to Svi. Shot almost 50% from two last year with the Hornets. He was pretty good once he landed in Charlotte after a few years of falling into a slump there. So if he signed in Boston, I'm sure money's part of it. You're still, even as a minimum guy, making probably a little bit more money than you would overseas. I bet he thinks he has at least some chance of competing here. Like, you have to if this is going to be your spot you pick, because there were other places that probably would have taken him and, had him in a deep, deep role on the roster. But here on this wing, where it's a little more uncertain behind Brown and Tatum, I bet he comes into this saying, I could probably compete for a few minutes here.
Yeah, I'm sure that was what his agent was saying, and that was a lot of what convinced him to stick around. And also just the exposure. I mean, the Celtics are obviously going to be on a lot of, televised throughout, the regular season, one of those top tier teams, and just to get an opportunity to go out there, whether it's playing, 7, 9, 10 minutes, if he succeeds, that's someone that can go and carry on an NBA career over playing overseas. I mean, it's obviously a 1-year deal, something that, he's going to have to try out and see how he fits. But, I like the signing. I do. I think it's someone that, a name that we didn't mention, but I think he does check a lot of those boxes of what the Celtics are trying to do right now in terms of, shaping out this roster.
So this leaves one roster spot open for the regular season. 14 guys now out of the 15 filled. You can leave the 15th spot open into the season, which Celtics often do. But I'm sure the door's open for Blake. You still have some other flyer guys out there. Some people love your Kelly Oubre's. They've worked out by reports. TJ Warren, Marc Stevens, Glenn Robinson III, who hasn't played in a couple years, and who's the fourth guy in that group? Louis King from the Sixers G League system there. So eye on wings. This might have been the wing out of all the choices they looked at here. So those guys could be out of play here. And I do think, especially from what Brad Stevens said on the radio this week, that they probably would like to have Blake back. But if you were going to ideally fill that last roster spot with one guy or one type of player, who would it be?
It'd probably be Blake, to be honest with you. I mean, you just said it. They sort of filled that opportunity for to address the wing position and add some depth there with this signing. And I don't think you go out and get someone else that's similar. I was big on TJ Warren. I think this signing kind of fills that opportunity. And I would like to see them go out and just address the front court with at least one more signing. If they do,
disappointed they didn't do Warren.
What's up? Not necessarily, to be honest with you. Just when you think about what the G League looks like, in terms of like the Celtics and where they are in their development, and guys that are trying to get an opportunity with the Celtics. Just a lot of guys that I just feel like are not quite there. I don't know if any of those, JD Davisons or guys that we've seen, Cabangela. I mean, we've seen sort of what they can do, and we're pretty certain that they're not quite there yet. So I would love to see someone like this, who's again in one of those guys in that group after playing 4 years in the NBA, has a little bit of experience, looking to carry on his NBA career and looking for an opportunity. And obviously not going to break the bank for the Celtics. And I think this is a great opportunity when you consider what the wing position looks like on the depth chart.
Definitely like the signing. Wasn't sure if they were going to get it done. I thought he might be heading overseas, so I'm glad they got it done. I think he'll probably help them in a couple spots here. You don't want to go too crazy about the guys at the end of the roster, and this is always the time of the year to do that.
Especially on a team like this.
But the good thing is with the signing like this, you're not parsing all these different options in the camp. They did that last year. It didn't really work. So they found their guy. They signed him. They have the door open for Blake. I'm right with you, Josue. Love to see him back. I've said it a million times how wrong I was about him. Ended up being one of my favorite things about last season was the Blake experience. And I bet he is more than ready to do that again for them at a front court position where there'll be plenty of nights off.
I hope this doesn't decrease his chances, right? I hope this has nothing to do with that, and he's just trying to make that decision. You mentioned it, I think, last week or a couple of weeks ago that he did this last year, right? It was sort of like a last minute thing that last minute decision to
It
join the
came out
Celtics.
of nowhere, remember?
Right, and I loved it. I loved it from the beginning, and I would love to see him come back and fill that role that I feel like everyone appreciated in terms of the locker room and just who he was with the Bus One boys and that whole thing played out, and being that guy that could fill in or the second night of back-to-backs for Al Horford, as obviously that front court is going to need someone like that.
Absolutely. So there you have it. Svi Mykhailiuk officially announced now the Celtics that they signed him. So he is in. And we'll kick around some of the other stuff that happened this week. Of course, we will have a mailbag at the end of the show here.
Yes.
Maybe something we'll
Send
start
them questions in. What we got? Let's see.
Maybe something we'll start doing semi-regularly here into the new season. I'm ready, Josue. I'm so sick of all the off-season nonsense. How stupid was that? What an August story that was. What was it? The track runner? I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Who was like the NBA?
Oh, Noah Lyles.
Yeah.
Noah Lyles. Yeah.
And that became a huge story for a couple of days. I'm like, can we start the season, please?
Well, when you got like some of the best players in the NBA responding to you, it's gonna make headlines. I think that's what sort of surprised me. Not the blowback, but just the way they just blew up the comment section. Like clearly they didn't like what he was saying.
Such a stupid story. FanDuel, not a stupid story right here.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying you agree with him? Well, we'll talk about it after the read.
Yeah, we can get into it. So FanDuel, it's football season. That can hold us over here. Next weekend, Syracuse actually is starting this weekend, but I want to tell you about the pro football offer going on here. FanDuel.com/Boston. Right now, you head over there, do your $10 deposit, $5 bet. You're going to get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket, which is huge through YouTube TV. You're going to be able to watch all the games you're wagering on this season, and you're going to get that $200 bonus bet that we've told you about numerous times here on the program. It's FanDuel, the official sports wagering partner of CLNS Media here, and an official partner of the NFL as well. And that's why they want to get you on Sunday Ticket, get you watching these games in the spirit and looking at all the different games you could potentially wager on here. You got odds, you got the same game parlays, you got the futures. We told you about the Super Bowl offer a couple weeks ago that was really fun. All those Super Bowl future bets are there right now as well. So head over there, FanDuel.com/Boston. Check out all the different offers and wagers and lines for week 1, which is just a week away now. Bet $5 on anything, and you're going to get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket. That's at FanDuel.com/Boston. Same thing we've been telling you about here. All customers who bet $5 get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV. Of course, 21 plus. President of Mass. First online real money wager. Only $10 deposit required. So, yeah, I didn't really care about it. If I had to pick one side, I get it. You're not playing the world, and I do wish they had some element now with this new in-season tournament where you were playing teams from the world more often. I know they do some preseason games. The Mavericks are going to do a preseason game against Real Madrid. You have some good teams out there. I remember, what was it last year? Adeline in Australia beat the Suns. So if there was a series, if there was a tournament, no international team would be beating NBA teams. Never mind the NBA champion. So it's not a huge deal that they're calling it world champs. I don't care what they call it, really. But
I just thought it was random. Like clearly,
it was random, and I don't know why everyone got so mad about it. Like the world's legit, and you're seeing it right now with the World Cup. Like Montenegro.
Yeah, but it's like, why are you thinking about that in that moment? Like it's like this is your moment, but it's
him,
like
Lyles.
Yeah,
it was a stupid thing to say on his angle too. Like,
right, I think that's what triggered these NBA players, because it's just like, all right, man, like enjoy your moment and everything, but like, what did we do to you? It's like, damn, like you clearly were like practicing this thing in the mirror. You know what I mean? Like it almost felt like a speech. Like he had it ready, just at the perfect opportunity to drop it, and he didn't missed that opportunity at all. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not like mad about it. I just think like you said, it's funny how the blowback, but at the same time, again, when you got guys like Durant, respond to it, it's gonna make headlines.
Yeah. And these guys get hit with a lot of strays anyway. The NBA players, whether it's the politicians or Ennis or whoever is just throwing stuff out there, complaining about them and the money they're making, and the amount of games they play, and blah 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 blah. Old league versus new league. Like there's a whole lot of nonsense. Never mind whatever they're reading on Twitter. But yeah, it was a weird thing to say from Lyle's standpoint. At the same time, I would like to see the NBA play the world a little bit more outside of exhibition settings. They've been doing the exhibitions forever. Could they get that involved in this in-season tournament? The in-season tournament to me still doesn't have enough allure to excite fans. There's no real prize. There's no incentive competitively to winning it yet. And you're not really playing outside of maybe a couple of games in the actual tournament. Any sort of new format. It's just these regular season games. I don't think it's going to move people year one. So they're going to have to find some way to make it more exciting for people. Elsewhere, I guess this was a little bit of old news, but when a guy like Marc Spears says it, my eyebrow does go up a little bit because he didn't have to say it on this Oregonian podcast. We've heard that the Celtics had interest earlier this summer in Damian Lillard, didn't extend too far. Lillard, by all accounts, didn't want to come to Boston. But you've now heard multiple times that Jayson Tatum was in his ear, called Lillard at one point, as Spears said here on this podcast, the Northwest Sports podcast. And hey, it's just something to keep an eye on, I think. As this Lillard thing drags out between the Heat and the Blazers, and whether or not Lillard shows up to camp, or whether he's actually playing by the time the regular season starts, Tatum's just there saying, all right, keep an eye on Boston. Like, we'd love to have you. Now, this would be an extremely hard trade to pull off at this point. Almost impossible, but worth keeping an eye on. Again, like if you're Spears, maybe just kind of slipped out of his mouth. You know how it is with the podcast. Something slipped out of our mouth.
You get real comfortable. You forget. You forget it's being recorded. Yeah, right. No, we know.
Remember, we quoted a high-ranking Celtics official.
Yeah, what do you mean we? All right, that was you, Bobby. Get out of here. I did co-sign it though. I guess that's the best way to put it. All right, you addressed it. I co-signed it, and Sherrod forced the news out of both of us, I guess.
But yeah, this isn't a huge news, but just interesting to me that Spears said it again this week. Do you have anything on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, we don't hear stuff like this when it comes to Jayson Tatum, right? Being that guy to recruit players to come over. I mean, we know that he's sort of one of those popular guys. When he goes to All-Star Weekend, you see him saying, dapping up a lot of the other stars, and he's sort of, trending that direction of being one of those popular guys. But I think it is interesting because of what's going on right now. It's sort of like this team is being held hostage and trying to be forced, according to reports, according to what his agent's trying to pull off here, that it's going to be either Miami or nothing, So I think for Tatum to step in there and be like, hey, listen, man, like, we could pull this thing off easily. Maybe not the trade itself, but like we could easily win this championship if you're here. And if you're pushing that button and if you're saying, listen, if Miami can't do it, let's just make it Boston because this is how much I want to win a championship, then there's an opportunity for sure. I mean, he's that powerful. I mean, that's just what happens in the NBA when it comes to star players, and when they really want to go to a team, it typically happens. And even though right now they may be in a situation where they're like, well, it's going to be Miami sooner or later, I don't know that that's necessarily the case this time around. Especially when you look at reports considering how many teams out there were even putting together their best trade packages to try to get someone like Lillard, considering how many years he's played in the NBA and his injury history and all that. I mean, maybe a lot of teams were just willing to give up a whole lot, for him, even if he were available, but which clearly he's not, according to his agent. It's either Miami or nothing. So, but yeah, look, I like that from Tatum. I don't think that's something that Celtics fans should be disappointed about. You bring in someone like Damian Lillard, that changes things, and it's easily the Celtics being the favorite to win the championship.
So it probably looks something like.
And this is what I should have started with this from the beginning. Sorry about it, real quick, but obviously I'm thinking about this hypothetical situation without Jalen Brown being involved in that trade, right? I think we're beyond that point of this whole thing, right? I know that was something that was talked about. Well, it feels about 2 months ago, pretty much a couple of weeks after the NBA Finals. That was something that people were talking about. So, but no, we're beyond that with the extension and everything.
Yeah, he actually can't be traded
until next year, right?
So,
that's right.
Yeah, you leave him out of this, and the only other way to make the money work here is a lot of players going out on the Boston end. It'd have to be Brogdon, Horford, Pritchard, and probably one other contract on top of that, Rob. So that gets you there. Even if you replace Horford with a smaller contract, I don't think that even gets there because Dillard's making like $50 million now, and then you'll be taking a luxury tax hit there. At some point, don't you have to think, and Spears said this too, that Miami offer is probably something that Portland just has to take and live with. All the first, you take as many firsts as you can. Jovic, Jaquez. Maybe you could even squeeze Caleb Martin in there, especially as his contract's kind of reaching its end. It's not a great offer. And Hero, maybe you reroute Hero somewhere later, but just take him. And I've been one of the guys who said this Heat offer kind of stinks, but nothing else is out there, and it doesn't look like anything else is going to emerge here. So,
Bobby, that happens.
Just get started on this rebuild.
Might be the greatest steal in the last.
It's not a steal though. He's an older player making $50 million a year.
I don't know, Bobby. When you consider what they're giving up, I mean, even with Tyler Hero being the centerpiece, I don't know, man. That would be a steal.
Think of what's left over though in Miami. You'd have, especially if Martin goes out in that trade, which I'm sure they'd really fight against. They probably want to get Lowry in there because the money might not even work with Martin. So
yeah,
after that, it's Lillard. Hero's not there anymore. I don't know if Robinson's playing the 2, maybe. You got Butler, you got Martin, you got Bam, and then you effectively have no bench. It's all minimum guys. So is Lillard, Butler, Bam, Martin, and some other guys, Robinson, enough to compete in the East? I don't know.
No.
It's a much scarier team than what they have now for sure, but
exactly. I think that's a bet too. If you're Miami, that's a bet you're obviously willing to make at this point. You look at what the Celtics are doing. You look at what's going on in Philly. I mean, there's a lot of franchises in a really rough spot right now. In Boston, I mean, they did raise some eyebrows with this whole, with trading for Porzingis and shipping out Marcus Smart. But I don't think anyone is not counting them as still championship contenders, or at least to a team to come out of the East and win it all like they did in 2022. So
yeah, and it's interesting. I see someone say Embiid there in the chat. You do wonder if a team like the Heat starts to say, all right, let's wait on this a little bit. But it's tough because Butler's on the older end. And the problem on the other hand of that, you're basically giving up all your valuable pieces unless, Philly would.
Yeah, but if you're Miami, man, I would wait it out. I mean, you said it. The way things are looking right now in Philly, man, I mean, you wait that thing out. Things will get – we've seen this in the past, like this thing could get ugly in the next couple of months, and all of a sudden it's like Joel Embiid wants that, puts out that trade request, That's it.
It's coming sooner than we think. Just my gut, based on how this Harden thing's going and how that could even end.
It's interesting, man. I mean, I always say, the NBA is always the most interesting off season out of all the 4 major sports in terms of the player empowerment and, guys switching up teams the way they do. But you look at Miami, you look at Philly. I mean, look at Milwaukee. Some of the quotes coming out of there, right? Giannis, talking about he's not fully committed quite yet. He has to wait and see with the new situation with his head coach and Adrian Griffin and all that. And
that was really interesting in the New York Times, no less.
Right. I mean, that's clearly a hint, right? Like, hey, listen, I'm not all in with what's going on right now, and I'm not. If there's any sort of a rebuild, and that we're approaching, I want nothing to do with it. Clearly, he's making his to get his point across.
Yeah, that was. Dude, I'm glad you brought that up. That was a bombshell that really didn't catch a ton of traction last week when that came out. Yeah, there's definitely eyeballs turning toward the Embiid situation and definitely the Giannis situation. especially the way Milwaukee's roster is looking now. Their additions over the summer really didn't wow anyone, I don't think. One other fun Celtics thing here I want to get to, and then we'll get to your questions to start loading them up in the chat. Everybody hanging out here. I'll check Twitter and wherever else too, see what people sent in. But back with us this week, our good friend AG1. They are back, and with the offer you know and love, drinkag1.com/garden for 1 year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs when you make your first purchase. And AG1, you should know them by now. If not, 75 vitamins, minerals, adaptogens, probiotics, and more in your water each morning. You just take a scoop of that green AG1 powder, throw it in there, and you're getting all that and more. Great way to just get your body the ingredients it needs for a fresh start this fall. And you're going to get these nice additional bonuses for free of a year's supply of vitamin D, 5 free AG1 travel packs. You'll be feeling good. Gives you that nice energetic boost. Nice tropical flavor as well. Doesn't really taste nasty like some of those other drinks out there for your health. And it just, again, gives you that start you're looking for. We've all been all on it for over a year now, Josue, and it's a nice part of your routine. And again, the gear that they have is what I love. The sweatshirt that they sent us, the
swag,
the crew neck, yeah.
I feel like it hits even harder during the off season.
The glass that you drink it out of, a nice glass straw too. It's just a nice, relaxing. The way you feel about your morning coffee, start to feel about AG1.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. That's exactly what it is.
And yeah, with all this bonus stuff, you get a subscription. I know they're going to send you some swag too. So drinkag1.com/garden. Go over there, check it out. Check the reviews. A lot of 5 stars. A lot of athletes use this as well. drinkag1.com/garden for a year's supply of vitamin D. 5 free travel packs, and head over there. Long running partner of the Garden Report, so we love them. And go give them a shot. See if it's for you. Check out the reviews. Don't take our word for it. Go give it a shot and get some of those nice bonuses over there. Again, drinkag1.com/garden. I love bringing this one to you, Josue.
What you got?
You see on IG a couple of times.
Oh, I'm glad you brought this up. No, we talked about it earlier, but for some reason, it slipped my mind when we were talking right before we went live.
On IG a couple of times, our guy Brett Hampton taking videos of Jayson Tatum, Paul Pierce in the gym together. They've been spending a lot of time together this month, it seems like, in the gym, working out. Might be helping Pierce get in shape more than anything it's doing for Tatum. But
you don't think he's in good shape? What do you mean?
Yeah,
no, I'm just playing. I know exactly.
He's in retirement shape, so.
Oh, okay. There you go. That's a good way to put it. You're being nice with Paul right now. Okay, something else.
Maybe they're gearing up toward getting on the court together and working on some stuff out there. Because if you're Tatum right now in these workouts, what are you going to be looking to try to get from Pierce in these meetings and workouts or whatever it might be that they got going on right now?
Honestly, Bobby, just great conversations, just talk about their experiences and just where they are. I mean, not even in the sense of advice from Paul, because I think that's what happens eventually, but just to share those type of stories and where Tatum is right now in his career, I think would be great. It's a opportunity for Paul for the two of them to just bond over the fact how the city of Boston is clamoring for that championship, right? That the next one, right? And Paul knows a lot of what that's like, especially when you think about the way his career played out, right? Which is very different compared to where Tatum is right now, right? Been in the playoffs every single year, has already reached the NBA Finals. He's got a few, or at least 3-4 Eastern Conference Finals appearances under his belt. I mean, it took Paul 4 years just to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Then it took him another 6 years to get back there with KG and Ray Allen. And, I just feel like just the contrast would just, they could easily find common ground. And I would love to see Paul somehow through these conversations and just talking about their battles and where they've been. Because, at this point, Tatum has stories. This isn't a young Tatum, 19-year-old Tatum, or even a few years in Tatum who is still, still trying to find his way. I mean, he's got battles, he's got stories that he can tell Paul. And obviously Paul's watched these.
That's a great point. He's almost and again, the championship's the big difference here, but he's almost
that's the big difference,
as Pierce.
Exactly. Like that, like right before you get there. And I know Paul got there, right away when he had, Ray and Garnett, but there was a shift in Pierce just that season and beyond. It wasn't just that year in terms of being more vocal, being more in your face, more rah-rah, being tougher. I mean, I would love to see that out of Tatum. We all know about the trash talking. I'd love to see that out of Tatum too, but I'm not going to ask something out of Tatum that he's just never done. If that happens naturally, organically, then that's great. But like just being more assertive and just being more focused, just like less smiling out there. You know what I mean? Like being nasty or just the term having a chip on your shoulder. And we talked about this a lot last season, Bob. Remember throughout the Celtics post-game show, like you got the quotes, you got the comments in the first couple of weeks, first month of the season about, man, we want to get back to the finals. We're really upset about what happened, against the Warriors. But then you never really felt it from these guys, right? You never really felt like they were like really out there and had a chip on their shoulder. I just feel like they looked like a group that said, you know what, that was great. We made the opportunity. We had that experience under our belt. Now it's inevitable. And obviously that wasn't the case. So with that lesson now, that mindset that like, wait, this isn't automatic just because you've been there before. We have to change something about our approach, our attitude, our demeanor. And I'm hoping Tatum is that one guy that we see that change, more than anyone next season.
Yeah, definitely. That's what you're looking for most here is that demeanor and attitude lesson resonating with the
all
group.
the greats do it. Like the LeBron James and the Kobe Bryants, like they just had like that shift at a certain point of their career where it's just like they go into a different type of focus that just yields obviously great results, but also like it's like not as friendly as they the first 2-3 seasons were. I feel like Tatum hasn't made that shift, that switch yet, and this should be it. This should be the year.
That's what it's all about too for this group. They have the supporting cast. They have for a handful of years here. It's about the stars figuring it out. Figuring it out together. I saw the commenter that I put up the comment say Brown and Tatum worked out together again after the pictures we saw of them in the gym together. That's huge. I don't want to hear about all his schedules weren't lined up and this guy's in Europe and this guy's down in California, LA. Get together. Go work through some things, be present in each other's workouts, have some overlap, maybe be guarding each other out there, whatever you need to do to get on the same page going into the season. And were you a little disappointed? I know John, if he was here, this would be his big point today.
What's that?
Were you a little disappointed that Porzingis didn't come back to Boston? And he said this in an interview that the Celtics requested that he come back and rehab at Auerbach Center after he got the plantar fasciitis that knocked him out of the World Cup. But he has to stay with the World Cup team. The World Cup team's been incredible, by the way. They're 2-3-1 now with a chance of moving on to the knockout stage without him, Latvia. But he's staying out there in Asia for the whole tournament instead of coming back to Boston. He said he got the Celtics permission on it. But were you disappointed that he didn't come back, or are you fine with him staying out there for the World Cup?
No, I'm not that disappointed, honestly. I mean, you when you're got training camp and all that, and all the time you're going to be spending with the team. And
that's what he said. He said, "I'm going to be in Boston for a long time."
Yeah, like come on, like I mean, this is like it almost has the vibes of like someone that like mentions it after you have that meeting where you get hired at the job. Hey, by the way, I'm taking a vacation in a few months. Is that okay? Like, you know what I mean? I almost had like that feel to it. So I'm sure the Celtics were fine with it, especially if he's not playing. Like that's what they care about the most. Like, okay, as long as you're rehabbing, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, and you're not in uniform, that's fine. Take your time, and we'll regroup later.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, and I said this in my reaction video to that interview. If he comes in the training camp and it's like, ooh, man, he's out of shape, he's not even close, everyone's gonna be like, why was he in Asia? But if he's right back in the preseason and locked in for opening night and looking good early on, everyone will forget about it. So that's sort of how that one's going to go, fair or not. It's going to be based on the result and the outcome of this injury here. And I am kind of bummed we're not seeing him. It's almost nice sometimes to see that early impression. Remember Kemba with Team USA right after he signed, and, Gallinari with Italy right before he got hurt. You don't want to think about that one as much, but it's nice to see these guys before they actually put on the Celtics uniform in this international competition. It looks like Porzingis could have actually led Latvia pretty far with how good they've been without him. So,
Yeah, or that motivation was what they needed. You never know. But yeah.
yeah, you're right.
That's true. I
They
mean,
went out. They went out and beat Spain today, Josue.
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, no, I saw that. It's impressive, man. Like, yeah, you wonder what the future is going to look like, and that's something that he can do after his NBA playing career.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they could qualify for the Olympics next summer too within this competition. So I'm sure that's heavy on his mind seeing them do that. First World Cup ever for them, Latvia. So they're
Good for them.
making a big splash. They almost beat Canada too. Had a decent lead on them early on, and their only loss so far. USA is 4-0. They're going to play Lithuania on Sunday to advance out of the second round of the group stage undefeated. Anthony Edwards got asked about Lithuania being undefeated. He was like, "Yeah, we're gonna win."
He's like, I'm not worried about that.
They've been pretty good. This team's much better than that Kemba Tatum Brown World Cup team that really wasn't that good a couple years ago.
No, they weren't. They weren't. It was cool seeing that though. 4 Celtics players on that team. But yeah.
DR was rolling, but they lost to Puerto Rico today. Tremont Waters had like 37 points.
He's been balling for them, man. I'm so happy for him. Good for him.
Yeah, that was a huge upset for Puerto Rico.
And his club team, they won the championship. So he went from that and carried that momentum right into this tournament. And he's been having a ball, man. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, he's had some bumps along the road. I remember hearing too that like when he came to the Celtics, he wasn't in the best like headspace or whatever to, kind of gone through some stuff, and his career kind of got derailed a little bit early on there. He had some flashes, if you remember, with the Celtics as far as passing the ball, at least, where you're like, all right, this guy's got a little something. He can really defend too. Great steal, great at picking guys' pockets, even at small size. So, he may find his way back into the league here, especially with the performance he's putting on in this World Cup. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on him. And that's your World Cup minute here. Anything else in the World Cup? Trying to think. Got Kyle Anderson playing for China. France lost Fournier and Rudy there. They actually lost to Latvia and got knocked out of the tournament.
What's up with Canada? I'm surprised.
They lost to Brazil today.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I expected more from them.
Jamal Murray sat out, which was a killer.
Yeah, that's a big blow. That's true.
But they still have enough. Olynyk, Shea, RJ Barrett was really bad today. He shot 1 for 8, so he's going to be better.
Yeah, I thought he would take over.
They're missing O'Shea Brissett too. They are wing defender. I saw it.
These players are not messing with that shit at all. Ain't nobody playing overseas. All right.
I saw whoever it was on Brazil went right by Dylan Brooks for the win.
They'll be saying Gallinari's name for years, being like, "Yo, remember Gallinari?" Like that's gonna be the thing. Like no one's playing in that tournament.
Oh, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson too.
Yes, that's who. Man, I was gonna bring him up. I was when you're saying what else from the World Cup, man. Listen, when you read the headline and you see the comparison, you hear Kobe Bryant, you're just like, wait, man, I can't. But when you watch the actual highlights, man, like his approach, clearly the influence is there. And it was pretty cool. I mean, he's a lefty, so it's a little different, but like just his pull up, the way he was attacking, the turnaround, very, very Kobe-like for sure. And if people haven't seen those highlights, man, go check that out.
Yeah, and I've never seen him play like that before.
No, he had a couple good games against the Celtics for sure, man. Like back in the day, in his Nets days. But
this tournament really will turn.
Nothing like that. But
the way some of these guys play, you're like, whoa. Patty Mills, another guy who just goes off in these.
He'll be playing in that tournament for years, man. I'm happy for him, man. Like you can just tell he's just no signs of slowing down, man.
He's on the Hawks now. I don't know if you knew that, but it's a nice little addition for them behind Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. They got a nice roster coming together there this year. I think they should be better. But let's get to our mailbag. We'll see questions we got. Our mailbag today is brought to you by HelloFresh. HelloFresh getting you ready for fall. Don't be in the grocery store. Don't be
menu's crazy.
Don't be in restaurants sitting by the stove, and you want to be outside enjoying the last days of summer, whether you're out on a picnic or going to one last destination, maybe down the Cape or whatever. You want to have dinner taken care of. And again, the grocery store, not quite where you want to be. A little expensive right now. Going out to eat, certainly forget about it. It's just way too expensive to do that. Let HelloFresh take care of it. And listen, you're going to have to do your part too, but they got the prepackaged ingredients, laid out instructions. It's easy. They make it quick, 15 minutes. You got a meal, and you're ready to go about your day once again. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit for a reason. They give you everything you need. It's all customizable, tons and tons of options, and flexible. You can get delivered when you want. You can change it on the go. And they got a great offer here to start you off, HelloFresh.com/StealinS50. Use the code StealinS50 for 50% off and free shipping when you head over there. That's HelloFresh.com/StealinS50. I love the fish theme that they have.
Get out of here.
I actually got a haddock waiting downstairs for right after this.
Oh, man. Haddock spawn.
Yeah, HelloFresh, let them take care of it. Again, great instructions and prepackaged ingredients make it easy and fun to cook. So go over there, take advantage of this offer for the fall. Stay out of the grocery store, stay out of the restaurants, and get back to cooking in a fun way. It might make you fall in love with it again here. I love HelloFresh, one of my favorite sponsors we've had here. And onto the mailbag we go. Let's check the chat first. I saw some questions.
What we got?
I had a lower third for this as well. Here we go. So, something about small ball here from earlier in the show. Let's see if I can find it. If you feel free to throw in a super chat too, so we'll find your questions here. All right, here we go. Best lineup: Rob, Porzingis, Tatum, Brown, White, or do you go small? What's going to be the best lineup? Let's say the closing lineup for the Celtics here.
I think that's it, man.
They're going big to close games.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I'm already thinking about the playoffs, so that's the thing. I mean, throughout the regular season, depending on how Al's doing that night, if he's there, you put him in the mix there. But I'm really intrigued to see what Porzingis and Rob are going to look like on the defensive end. And if that's something that if they're thriving, I'm hoping that's the case, then this is it. This is your closeout lineup, pick and roll defense, what Rob's been doing, in terms of just continuing to, not only put up these videos, but be healthy. I mean, when's the last time we had an entire summer where Rob is healthy, getting ready for a season and not on ice? And we're thinking, how many games is he going to miss, or when is he going to be back with the team? So I think that's a big part of this. And if that can be a success, if these guys, especially on the defensive end of the floor, if they thrive, I think that's a really, really tough matchup to close out against for opposing teams.
Yeah, it's going to depend on the matchup, of course. I like staying big too, generally. But I think those Brogdon lineups, if he's right, you're going to need someone as a connector there. And if we're talking about needs with this team, you are still going to need a guy, whether it's Hauser, whether it's Svi, unlikely, but someone who can connect the bigger lineups to the smaller lineups. And maybe it's Horford too. Like Brad, I know he was kind of laughing, but he was talking about playing three bigs at times. And if Horford's shooting 44% from three again, he's good enough passer, good enough wing defender, you might be able to go super, super big at times. So I'm interested to see how they do connect, because this will be the starting lineup, I think. But connecting that to the late game lineup that has some flexibility on both ends of the floor is going to be a big deal. And that it might just be simplest to say, put your best five guys out there. And these are right now the best five players on the Celtics, without a doubt, entering this year, especially with the uncertainty around Brogdon.
Especially if we see significant strides from Derek White and Robert Williams, which I think those are the two guys I'm going to say either one of them or both of them make significant strides. It's supposed to be in a really, really good place. So I think that's something that we're going to keep an eye on for sure.
This is a good question. No Smart, no Grant. Who's going to go toe-to-toe with Embiid and Giannis? You got to say Al, but it's a heavy, heavy weight on Al's shoulders every year, but this year especially, since he's really the strong body, the only strong body left on the team. I know Tatum's always hyping up his physique, so maybe he'll take some of that on his shoulders as well. But
he should.
For the bangers, who's going to guard the bangers in basketball now on this team?
I mean, I think Tatum is going to be in the mix for sure, but I think it's Rob. I think that's
Al, Rob bulking up, guarding some bigger guys.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's significant. especially if he's healthy. I think that's a part of his game that's going to continue to develop along with the offense. I mean, I know my podcast co-host Cedric Maxwell. I mean, they were making jokes about who he's playing in the gym there when he put the ball on the floor and he's trying to make plays from the perimeter. But that's something that he's going to have to add to his game. I think it's going to be a dimension that's going to be significant if he's able to do that in some regard, right? I'm not expecting him to go out there and start shooting 3-pointers, but if he can just hit a couple of mid-range shots and had that shot, in his bag, that'll help his offense for sure in a big way.
Good question there. Let's see. Anyone else on the chat side here? See if we got any Twitter ones pulled up. Feel free to add yours in there in the chat too. I'll circle back to them. We got our Discord as well. Threw a flyer in there. What's your biggest question for the team this season, Josue?
Biggest question is what Porzingis is ultimately, right? I mean, what the impact he makes on both ends of the floor and how that elevates not only the Jays but obviously the team as a whole. I think that's something I can't wait to see. Going to be clearly a focus, for guys like us and fans alike.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm the opposite end of that trade though. What's it like without Smart? The leadership dynamic. Who's stepping up as the vocal guy, holding everyone accountable? Does Joe fill that gap in a different way this year? Is it Tatum and Brown really shouldering that responsibility? Did you hear Brad again on the radio today saying yeah, something I've heard a couple people say at this point, Joe and Brad and even Derek's trainer. Yeah, Smart was a great vocal guy, great leader, but him being out of there, maybe a chance for some other guys to step up, and specifically Brown and Tatum. I think Brad said their names specifically. They got to be the guys who step up in that area this season. And that seemed to be a major motivating factor, I think, trading Smart, was being able to have Brown and Tatum step up and actually be the leaders on this team.
Well, yeah, the two go hand in hand for sure. I mean, it's it's easy to forget because of that moment. Well, if you look at the way the series ended, the whole the Derek White shot, the putback in Game 6, is easy to forget. I mean, what happened right before that happened, right? It was Marcus Smart turning around and taking that 3. I mean, can you imagine if that's the way the season ended? And people would be like, "All right, well, see you later, Marcus. This had to happen." Like that would have been a narrative. And I don't think that they went to the offseason with that mindset, but I do think that they wanted to rebalance. They want to rebalance the roster and shake things up. And I think Porzingis was just someone that was on Brad's radar well before the offseason started. So it just made sense when you look at what the Celtics had to offer and just the way the whole thing played out, and them trying to put together the assets that they needed to facilitate that trade. Brogdon, that didn't work, and then pivoting to the Memphis Grizzlies, knowing that was a trade that was probably discussed.
I still wonder. I'll always wonder what would have happened if the Brogdon thing went through. Would they have been getting Tyus Jones back from Memphis, or
I think that was something that was probably a possibility when you think about just adding depth to the roster and just having some key pieces to address that backcourt. Without Marcus, I mean, who knows? But look, I mean, I guess what I was trying to say originally was just, I mean, this is the two go hand in hand. Marcus is out. You got Tatum and Brown trying to figure this thing out, and for the first time ever, you got a picture of these guys in the gym in August. Like we've never seen this before, and I think we're well beyond the uncomfortable conversation. I think at this point we want to see.
That's gonna be results. A shirt. It's gonna be one of our next shirts.
I mean, we want to see results, right? I think that's what we would love to see. These guys not only playing at a high level, which they clearly have been, making strides in their career every single year, but to do it together and just like run the league. Like imagine if this team could get out to like a 13-4 record or something like that, like something dominant like that. You would say right away, man, these two have really figured this thing out. Jalen got his extension. The loss of Game 7 has really hit these guys to the point where they came together and be like, man, let's do this. Let's start from scratch right now, and let's just set the tone right here. With us in the gym and ready for the next season, getting ready in the lab.
Yeah, they're capable of that, especially when you look at the early season schedule. This is a good one to wrap us up. And
Definitely.
actually, this one's becoming one I'm more and more intrigued by. And I'm not going to go over the top with the Pritchard stuff. I think people do sometimes. But remember, Josue, I like this guy a lot when they drafted him. Like right away, I knew him from Oregon. He's on TV all the time. You could tell he's one of the best players in college. And then that first
Pritchard.
year, he was awesome. You remember the game winner against Miami? He was a big part of that rotation his rookie year. He played well. Even the second year, they go to the finals. He's part of that rotation.
Yeah.
And last year, it's just
Played in
that
the finals.
screeching. It's just that screeching halt because Brogdon comes in. And listen, I still like Brogdon being here. I still think they're going to need him. But some fans are saying maybe Pritchard can step up and can be that guy and overtake him this season with a bigger role and more consistent playing time. I don't think you're ever going to see that triple-double guy who has the ball in his hands all the time and is running the show. But he's good enough as a shooter, good enough as a defender, I think, to be a complimentary piece here. It feels like he's had a huge offseason between the select team and his usual routine. Pro-Am explosions, we saw those again. Listen, I don't know if he's a starter in this league, but he's definitely a guy who can contribute and play sizable minutes. Again, eat some innings here, score some baskets, pass the ball, help just free up this offense. He's a guy that can do that, and we saw his rebounding last year too in those spots when he came in. I'm excited to see him show what he's capable of this year because all we heard last year was, I want to go somewhere, show what I'm made of. Felt like he was done here in Boston, and now, given this Brogdon situation, and especially Smart going out the door, you look at Pritchard as an important part of this team over the next couple of years.
Yeah, you wonder what's going to happen this year. Sort of like that year is going to make or break him in terms of staying with this team or being dealt elsewhere, or if he were to move on during free agency. But I think there's an opportunity for him. I think the Celtics are going to be really careful with Brogdon, and I don't think it will be a situation where he's not playing on the second nights of back-to-backs. But if you have someone that can produce and you can, minimize Brogdon's production, or at least his minutes, I should say, then I think that would be great for the Celtics team in terms of addressing that depth in the backcourt. I mean, there's going to be a void. Marcus will leave a void in that backcourt in both ends of the floor and just overall. And I think there's an opportunity for Pritchard to be one of those contributors that comes off the bench and that, Joe Mazzulla can rely on, just to sort of facilitate, knock down some shots and just kind of just run the offense in a way that opposing guards will keep them on their heels,
Yep, I'm looking forward to it. He will be kicking off training camp along with the rest of the team at the end of this month. So it's going to be a little bit of a wait, but again, you got football and all the rest to hold you over. In the meantime, check out the Patriots Press Pass channel. Check us out here. We might have some fun interviews this month. You never knew who's going to stop by the Garden Report from different media people around the league, players, whoever it might be. We got our welcome sign open for whoever wants to jump on here to start September before camp gets going. Of course, mentioning football, go get your $100 off Sunday ticket and $200 in bonus bets over at FanDuel. It's their best offer yet. They're our official sports wagering partner here at FanDuel.com. AG1, they're offered by now. It's a great one. Drink AG1.com/garden for a year's supply of vitamin D. 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. And HelloFresh, HelloFresh.com/SteelinS50. Use that code SteelinS50 to get 50% off plus free shipping. Thanks for joining me here on a Friday, Joe Swaves.
Oh, no problem, man.
Thanks to everybody for your questions. We might do this every week or so here, maybe on our Discord or Twitter Spaces, whatever it might be. Best spot.
X Spaces, yeah. What's it called now? That sounds different.
That
sounds like something else.
We'll figure out the best spot to do it. Good talking to you, Joe Sway. We'll see you soon. And
definitely,
everybody check out Celtics All Access for more on Svi Mykhailiuk joining the Celtics. The big news of the week here. And again, turn your notifications on CLNS Media for any live shows coming on next week. See you.